There's currently a bipartisan effort in the Senate in order to check Donald Trump and his weapons deals with Saudi Arabia. This is great news. We'll see if it actually gets anywhere or if there are enough Republican senators to join along with Democrats in order to do away with Trump's ability to veto this legislation. But let me give you the details on what they're attempting to do. Senators Todd Young, who's a Republican from Indiana, and Chris Murphy, a Democrat from Connecticut, who both sit on the Foreign Relations Committee, plan to introduce a bill designed to force a vote on current and future US arms sales and other military support to Saudi Arabia. Now, Senator Murphy says the process we're setting in motion will allow Congress to weigh in on the totality of our security relationship with Saudi Arabia, not just one arms sale, and restore Congress's role in foreign policy making. So, look, Congress in the past has decided to willy-nilly give away its power to the executive branch, and now they're paying the consequences of that. But I think this type of legislation makes all the sense in the world. The president should not be able to unilaterally make these deals with Saudi Arabia or any country, especially when it comes to selling weapons.
So two parts of this story. One is, what? Republicans are doing the right thing? Really surprising, but hey, I love giving credit where credit is due. So definitely credit to Senator Todd Young from Indiana. I don't dislike Republicans as a matter of nature and as a matter of partisanship. I used to be a Republican, so
I kind of dislike them. I'm just kidding, sort of. Not really.
So no, it depends. It depends on what they're doing. 99% of the time, they do the wrong thing and they do it based on corruption. But if they do the right things, like criminal justice reform or this bill, fantastic. Now, don't get me wrong. The majority of the Republican Party is still on the wrong side on this issue, but a couple of Republicans have broken away, and it makes a big difference because then you could win in the Senate on these bills. Now, there's a huge problem, which leads to point number two. The president can veto things. And so they already passed the bill led by Bernie Sanders in the Senate and Ro Khanna in the House against what we're doing in selling weapons to Saudi Arabia, especially because of the war in Yemen. Trump vetoed it. And then they said, okay, look, you're supposed to ask for congressional approval for arms sales. And Trump said, nope, there's a national emergency.
Right.
Based on what? I mean, remember one of the times that he declared national emergency, he said, we've got to stop Canada from bringing cars into the country because of a national emergency.
He has cited a national emergency or national security threat when it comes to trade negotiations, when it comes to the border wall. Remember, national emergency, we got to build that border wall.
And he diverted funds from the military to the wall because of the so-called national emergency. In this case, he says the emergency is Iran. Why? What's happening with Iran? Nothing, just Iran. Boo! National emergency because Iran exists. And so it's obviously a made-up excuse. By the way, there is a national emergency. His name is Donald Trump. So maybe that's why he's seeing emergencies everywhere around him. But now, in this case, so Congress said, okay, now you blocked us in a couple of different ways from checking you. Well, we're gonna keep trying. So what they're doing today and what we're talking about for the purpose of this story is the Foreign Assistance Act. So they said, well, look, that allows Congress to request information on a country's human rights record within 30 days. And so I'm requesting information on Saudi Arabia's human rights record. Good luck with that, because that human rights record is going to be terrible. And if you don't get the right answers, then you can block security assistance to that country. And we know the Trump administration isn't going to give them those because they were supposed to turn in a report a long time ago about whether Mohammed bin Salman, the crown prince of Saudi Arabia, was responsible for killing and dismembering Jamal Khashoggi, who was a columnist for the Washington Post. And Trump was like, I'm not going to give you that report. I don't care that he chopped him up. I still want to make money.
That's right.
And I want to do deals with my friends in the Saudi Arabia, who, by the way, as I was running for office, promised me a lot of goodies when I'm out of office. I'm sure that's a coincidence. And Jared Kushner went and talked to them about business deals for the Kushner family and the Trump family. I'm sure that's a coincidence, but he is not complying with anything that Congress is asking him to do, including Republicans in Congress. So they're trying hard to get accountability here. So it's very rare when Congress does the right thing. You should applaud that. I'll take it. So good job on the part of Chris Murphy and the other Democrats and Sanders and Khanna in the past. But yes, definitely give credit to the Republicans as well who are on the right side of this issue.
So I have a question. Right now, the Democrats are having trouble getting the documentation, the information that they have subpoenaed from Donald Trump and members of his administration, people surrounding him. So let's say in a perfect world where there is a bipartisan effort that's successful and they somehow manage to pass this and it's veto proof. Is Donald Trump gonna comply? He's not gonna comply.
Well, no, I mean, at that point, you know, the word.
What's gonna happen then? Impeachment? Come on.
No, well, it's a great question. So the phrase constitutional crisis gets thrown around a little too much. So Donald Trump is a disaster in every way, but we have not yet hit a constitutional crisis. So what does it mean in specific? It means if the system does not work as it is supposed to according to the Constitution. So there's supposed to be co-equal branches of government. So for example, the most common example is if the the judicial branch says something in terms of, for example, interpreting a law and saying that's unconstitutional, you're not allowed to do that. And the executive branch says, I don't care, I'm the one with the guns, so I'm gonna do whatever the hell I want, and I'm not gonna listen to the executive branch. That's a constitutional crisis. If Congress overrides a veto of the president and the president says, I don't care, I'm the one with the guns, I'm not gonna listen to Congress, well, he's in direct and obvious violation of the Constitution, and that's a constitutional crisis. That's not open to interpretation. There's a vote, and the vote is clear. We have overridden your veto, and according to the Constitution, you must comply. If Trump, in a scenario like that, with a legislative or judicial branch, does not listen and just does whatever he wants, the impeachment has to be within basically 24 hours. I'm exaggerating a little bit, but I'm not exaggerating on when it should start. Otherwise, we're done. It's again, not an exaggeration because that means he broke the system and there was no response. If Congress does not impeach him at that point, that means the president can do whatever he wants. They can't override his veto. The judicial branch can't declare anything he does unconstitutional. He then becomes the law, and that's not our system of government, that's a dictatorship. So he must be immediately impeached if that happens. It should be absolutely inarguable. If you're a conservative and all these years you've been talking about the Constitution, that is the very, very core of the Constitution. So if they have something that is veto proof, I don't even, look, I think Trump would end the system if it was to his advantage and he thought he could get away with it. I don't think he thinks at this point that he could get away with that. Because they did once get something veto proof, that was sanctions on Russia. It passed 98-2 in the Senate. And he said, he huffed and puffed, if you remember that. Now this is a little while ago, he's been more emboldened since because the Democrats
haven't done anything
and won't hold him accountable. But back then he said, oh, I don't want to sign these sanctions. I think Russia's great, and these sanctions are going to hurt them, and I don't want that. And but eventually he did sign it, and then he didn't put them into place for a long time after the deadlines, and then that was starting to become a constitutional crisis, but not there yet. And then eventually he did concede and put the sanctions into place.
I just think that if members of Congress, particularly senators, are irritated at the executive branch's power grab, it's gonna be a lot worse if you don't do the right thing should that constitutional crisis come up.
Yes, but at this point, I'm not convinced that Nancy Pelosi would ever take action against Donald Trump. She said we raised a lot of money from him, and I'm not sure there's anything he could do where it would motivate her to care more about the Constitution, the country, than about her own political career.
I mean, she accused him of a cover-up, right? And then, okay, so if you really think that he's engaging in a cover-up, what are you gonna do about it? Like, stop talking about it if you don't actually intend on doing anything about it.
You know, there was this little bit of fake outrage by the Republicans when Nancy Pelosi, behind closed doors, said to other Democrats, oh, I think he should be in prison. So she's just saying that to mollify the Democrats who want to impeach him. Of course she doesn't mean it, but if she did mean it, well, then if you think he should be in prison, then by definition, you should impeach him for high crimes and misdemeanors. But she's not gonna do any of that. And she's brazenly said, we don't think it will help us politically. it might energize the Republican base and hurt us in the next elections. In other words, I don't care about the law. I don't care about the Constitution. I only care about my political career. That's why I'm not going to hold Donald Trump accountable. That is a very dangerous situation to have. A president who's completely out of control and is doing massive power grabs with an opposition that preemptively surrenders on every issue. That's a recipe for disaster, and that's where we are today.
You know, it's kind of impressive how much you know about like how politics works, how our government works, and some might argue that you're a square. And a square should go to squarespace.com to create their website. In fact, go to squarespace.com/TYT and you're gonna get a nice, fat, juicy discount, 10% off. Again, squarespace.com/TYT.
I was so puzzled by your compliment because that never happens. I was like, where is this going?
You're right, it never happens.
So I was like, there's something strange, something amiss here. But it turns out there's something actually great going on because you're gonna get 10% off if you build your website through Squarespace.
Exactly.
But you gotta do squarespace.com/TYT. Two easy ways to follow the Young Turks. One is hit the subscribe button down below, then you're a TYT subscriber. And second is ring the bell. And when you do that on YouTube, you're notified of our videos.